All right, good morning, everyone. You have unfortunately sat yourself in Think About Your Brand, a session on personal branding, which is what we're going to be talking about today. This is an expansion of a session that we did yesterday at Champion Day, so we want to take some time to dig into the details of it. Actually, before we get started, a couple of prerequisites. You should probably own a smartphone. If you don't own a smartphone, I don't know what you're doing here. For the practical portion of this, you should also be comfortable working with the Watson speech-to-text API, because we're going to be using that. So if you're not comfortable with that, you'll probably want to take a lab for that, because it's an incredibly useful thing. In terms of, you know what? I might switch to, that's not any better. All right, I'll just yell louder. In terms of personal brand, huh? The door can't close, the power cord is there. In terms of personal branding, so why would you ever talk about this particularly at a technology conference? Well, a few things. Personal branding is nothing more than your reputation. As a developer, as a technology professional, as a practitioner, it is your reputation. And it is the only thing that you have that is guaranteed to be yours uniquely, right? Everything else that you do, somebody else can do, and at some point, probably an AI will be able to do, right? But your personal brand is the only thing that is uniquely yours. There are three reasons why you would care about your personal brand. Number one, if you or your company values being heard in the marketplace, your personal brand is an integral part of that. The reason for that is that how many people out of curiosity are on a social network of some kind of post at least once a week? Okay, so have decided that companies should just start paying an egregious sum of money to be seen for anything, right? Which means that the only way a company can be heard without spending a lot of money swiping the credit card to Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff is for every one of you to help amplify the message. Some people call this employee advocacy. We just call it, posting on behalf of your company. The stronger your personal brand is, the stronger your network is, the more you're able to help your company, which, by the way, also makes you really, really valuable to the company. The more indispensable you are to the company, the harder it is for them to get rid of you or downsize you. Second, if you like not working with jerks, your personal brand is one of the best ways to do that, because the more you share your stuff, your perspective, how you do your work, what your company is all about, the more you will help attract talent to your company and support your company's reputation and voice in such a way that you attract the people who are similar to you, like you, would get along with you at work, as opposed to attracting, say, just some moron that they found on a job board, right? So your personal brand will help attract talent to your company that is like the people that you want to work with. And third, and most important for everybody here, your personal brand is your lifeboat. This is your insurance policy against job change. When you change jobs, when you change companies, you leave behind a lot of stuff, right? You leave behind intellectual property, you leave behind colleagues and a network, but you take your brand, your reputation, and your personal social network with you wherever you go. The bigger and stronger your personal brand is, the better off you will be. Your goal as any practitioner, not just a marketer, but as any practitioner, is to never need a resume again. Out of curiosity, how many people, to get their current position, used a resume or a LinkedIn profile? Okay, a few, about a third. Your goal should be to never have to do that again. Your goal should be to put a post on LinkedIn or on Facebook or wherever saying, hey, I'm thinking about moving on. Where should I go next? And have 10 job offers from interested companies who are like, wow, we really could use your help, right? That's the power of this stuff. So there's a lot in it for you, the person, and yes, it does help the company as well. So we know why this thing is important. What is your personal brand? Your personal brand has 5 ingredients. It's your brand voice, which is sort of how you say what you say. It is the people that you know, the network that you build, and then the stuff that you make that supports it. And the stuff that you make that supports it is what we're going to talk about a lot in the practical portion of the session, but these first 2 things are really important. Your brand voice comes in one of 4 flavors, and you can mix and match these flavors. When you go to create content, when you go to talk about stuff online, it's not, hey, here's this sandwich I ate, right? Nobody cares about that unless you're a Kardashian. And if you're a Kardashian, I don't know why you're at Think. So what do you talk about that would be of interest to your audience, to people who might want to get to know you? Number one, the sort of the foundation, the values, your perspectives as a developer, as an IT person, as a technology professional, as a marketer, a business person. What do you stand for? What do you not like? What do you see in your marketplace that you object to? So for example, if you work on Z series and you think that the ZOS and the zero downtime thing is super important, and you see a whole bunch of companies out there cutting corners and using the cheapest possible Linux distribution on ancient hardware, that's a position that you can talk about and provide value to an audience to say, don't do this. You will cripple your company at the worst possible time. That's the reason why ZOS is so important, because it's for people who cannot fail. So hey, if you happen to run things like, I don't know, nuclear missiles, we would like you to use something that has zero downtime. So your values and the things that you care about as foundation principles of your career is one way to find your personal voice. The second is structure. So science, process. How do you do the work that you do? So if you are, for example, a DB2 admin and you're talking about the virtualization of data, and you want to show how a federated database can be virtualized so that all tables appear local, nobody else probably knows it quite as well as you do. In fact, based on some of the looks on your faces, nobody knows here what that means. But as a technology professional, if you can explain the structure, the process, how you do what you do, how you bring magic, how you make things happen, that's a great way to create a lot of content. If you want to screencast, for example, how do you set up a NoSQL database? People want to learn that. That provides value to people. Third is connection. So what are the things that you are passionate about? And this is now not just the technology itself, but the application of the technology. What are you doing that's making the world a better place? What are you doing to volunteer? What are you doing that applies the technology you have and the knowledge you have to the world's, making the world a better place? So do you volunteer for a charity? Do you help on the side with things like setting up Watson Discovery to figure out what donors should be donating for, or what your charity of choice should be talking about in order to be as impactful as possible in the world? That's connection. And the last area for finding your brand voice, your personal brand's voice, is in service. And this is the thing I think every single person here could do. How can you help somebody else as a technology professional, as an industry professional? I publish a weekly newsletter. It goes out to about 25,000 people every week. And one of the columns that I always ask for is a section called You Ask, I Answer. And all I do is ask people, what do you want to know? What questions do you have? And it could be something as simple as, hey, how do I find the admin button in Google Analytics? Because on any given day, it may or may not be labeled because Google keeps messing with the interface. Or it could be as complex as, hey, which is a better predictive algorithm, SARIMA or Amazon SageMaker, which is based on a slightly different variation of ARIMA. The point of that is that you have an audience that can ask you questions, and you can provide those answers, and probably in a perspective that nobody else can do. So if you're working on finding your personal brand's voice, it is a question of what do you know that you can share and serve other people and help them out in the world. So how do we do this? How do we make these ideas? If you know what your brand voice is, and by the way, you can mix and match those attributes, how do we turn this into something usable? Number one, there's a distribution process. You have to make stuff and then share it. So again, just to show of hands, how many people have at least one professional social network? LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and stuff like that. So anybody who is not using social media? Okay, so one person. Try signing up for it and building out, at least the basics of a network, but you're going to need to have that platform, and then to start the process of creating your content, figuring out where to share it, where to distribute it, activating it, and then promoting the content. The single best way to create content that will save you a lot of time and check the box on as many formats as possible is to create video. So for example, I've got my iPhone right here. It looks really stupid. I'm wearing two microphones because there's one that goes to this speaker, which you can barely hear. And then there's another one that's wirelessly plugged into my iPhone. What I'm doing is I'm recording myself talking about this stuff because I want this content available in as many formats as possible. We'll talk about atomization in a minute. But there's 4 kinds of video that you can make really, really easily. Number one is the video selfie, which is you sharing a perspective. So this right here is effectively a video selfie, right? I've got a phone taking a video of me doing something. If you are not comfortable in front of the camera, and that's okay, most people aren't. If you're not comfortable in front of the camera, be behind the camera. You are at a gathering of tens of thousands of technology professionals. Right now, because you're standing here, you have the opportunity to take out your phone, maybe not right here, but talk to somebody else and ask them, hey, what's your perspective on Tivoli? What's your perspective on TM1? What's your perspective on moving from old OLAP cubes to more advanced data warehousing? Talk to a ton of people and ask them, hey, what's your perspective on this? Especially if you're in sessions where you want to talk to a speaker, or you want to talk to somebody else who's in that session. If you are in a ZOS session, probably everybody else in that room is also interested in ZOS, right? Because you wouldn't be in that room just for fun. Well, maybe you might be, but probably not. So be behind the camera instead of in front of the camera if you're not comfortable being on camera. The third is interviews. How many of you came here with somebody else? Okay, so you got somebody else to talk to. So at an event like this, stick a camera on a table, get a little tripod or balance it on a drinking glass or whatever, and actually talk to your traveling companion, your business partner, and say, well, what did you get out today? And you don't have to do it just at a conference. You can do it every single week. Hey, what did you guys get out of today? Or what happened this week that was of note? You can take a look at the news in your industry and say, hey, these are some things that we noticed this week that were really, really important, and create video around that. And the fourth, if you absolutely positively just do not want to have your face on the internet for some strange reason, screencasting is your friend, especially in technology, because there's no way to show better what you do and how you do it than to use a piece of screencasting software and actually broadcast as you do stuff. So you could be deploying a database, you could be normalizing some data, you could be connecting stuff in, it's not Bluemix Lift anymore, what's it called now? IBM Cloud Lift, but moving databases from point A to point B. So you can screencast this and go through every part of your job that is not proprietary and share that, because that's how you can build a reputation. Is that this is what I know. It's not a resume, it's not an interview, it is a literal ongoing demonstration of all of the content you can create. So one of the tools that I particularly enjoy using is Camtasia, because it allows you to do video like this. Let me fire up a new project here. And I can import video from my iPhone. I can take a screencast of me illustrating stuff on the screen. I can drop in audio and video and still images. And it's a nice, very quick project that I can then publish to YouTube or whatever. So let's go into... This is an example of a very simple screen. I just drag and drop the clips in. I have a video of me talking in my basement. This is not glamorous stuff. This is not stuff that is high production value, and it does not have to be. That's the other thing that's so important. In the old days, yes, you needed $1 million studio and stuff. Today, you have your phone, and frankly, as long as the content you're creating is of value to somebody else, they won't care how you look, how much you weigh, what you're wearing, where you are, or even how good the language you choose to speak is. And so having the stuff on there, this is my basement, it's not the most glamorous place in the world, but it does the job in terms of publishing video to get out there. And so I use Camtasia to manipulate and do stuff like that. The only other thing on a practical perspective that you probably want for video is good audio. So this head-worn microphone here is about $30 on Amazon. It's some Chinese company whose name I can't pronounce because I don't speak a word of Chinese, but it was on Amazon, it was cheap, and it seems to work just fine. In terms of video quality, your smartphone is good enough. How many of you have ever gone to watch sports at a bar, out of curiosity? Okay, a lot of you, wow, okay. Have you ever had a case where the TV in the bar wasn't the best, but you could hear the game, it was fun, it was fine, right? How many of you have had the same enjoyable experience watching a TV? Maybe it was a really nice HD TV, but there was no audio. Was it as fun? Like, not really, kind of lose interest, right? Because we are primed to listen and watch at the same time. So if you're going to make video online, invest in the audio, because people will watch a person in their basement as long as they can hear it clearly, right? So having a decent microphone is an important part of that. When you're doing things like interviews and stuff, grab a quiet corner as best as you can. Someplace, this room is probably the absolute worst acoustically, other than having an actual marching band in here, because the sound is bouncing around everywhere. So go to a hotel room, go to someplace quiet. This sounds slightly creepy, but any place with padded walls is perfect, because the sound does not bounce around. So let's say you go and you create a video on your iPhone. There are a couple apps that I would strongly recommend that you have. One of them is called Adobe Spark Video. It's a free app and allows you to make like 30-second clips. You'll want to do that for promotional purposes. The other is have a video editing app of some kind. I don't know the Android ecosystem, but on iPhone, there's iMovie, which comes with the phone. There's also Adobe Premiere Clip, I believe it's called, which is a fantastic little video editor. And again, all you got to do is drag and drop the pieces in, hit publish, and send it off to YouTube or wherever. What do you do with the video? Video is so rich, right? It contains the images, the pictures, right? So you can take the video and upload it to YouTube, and you should. You should upload it to LinkedIn if it's 10 minutes or less. Keep your videos to 10 minutes or less, by the way, because don't tell anybody, but LinkedIn is probably one of the best places to share video right now if it's 10 minutes or less, because it gets like 100 times the engagement of YouTube. Don't put that on the internet. Oh, wait. So you can put the video out there. But what comes along with the video? The audio. So one of the things you can do, if you have a Linux-based system, there's a utility called FFmpeg that allows you to take any video and immediately convert it to an audio format, like MP3, M4A, M4B, and stuff like that. And it's literally like 1 or 2 commands. Think about your brand. I'm going to convert this to an MP3. FFmpeg will go in and transcode it very, very quick. It's open source, totally free of financial costs. You just have to be able to install the bloody thing. And then once you're done, what do you have? You have MP3s, which means that you can load it to SoundCloud. You can load it to Spotify. You can publish a podcast, right? So your video series automatically becomes a podcast. Put it on a WordPress blog, and now you've got yourself a full audio podcast. And whatever you turn your audio into is a podcast, right? What else can you do with that audio? If you have the Opus encoder, which is also free, you can go to Watson speech to text, and with, again, a couple of relatively simple commands, you can transcode your audio. Let's see if this is done yet. Ah, it's done. Excellent. I'm sure, by the way, and someone can please tell me, there's got to be an easy way to do this. I'm just a terrible coder. So now I have the text of that MP3, of everything that I was saying. I'll obviously have to do some cleanup on it. But once I have that text, what do I have? I have content for blog posts. I have content for email newsletters. Depending on how long I foam at the mouth for, I may have enough for a white paper or even an ebook. When you have the video, what else do you have? Take still frames out of the video. Now you have images for social, for Instagram, for Pinterest, for all these things. You have photos for your blog. You have stock photography. This one video here, assuming I don't look like an idiot or like pick my nose for some reason, I could take the whole thing, slice it up, and turn it into like thousands of photos that I can use over and over again. So one video turns into all this content that you can then make use of throughout the year. Right? So if you don't have time to create new social content every day to promote yourself, do some video recording and then transcode it into all these different formats. Any questions on the slicing and dicing part? Any answers? All right. In terms of promoting it, the idea of build it and they will come died right around the same time that MySpace died. For those of you who have a little more gray or a little less hair than you'd like, MySpace was a popular social network in the early 2000s. It was popular, mostly known for things that sparkled and glittered. What you do is you need to be able to activate your content to make somebody pay attention to it. And there's 4 different ways you can do that. Number 1 is to tag stuff. When on most social networks you tag somebody else, you briefly get their attention and the people who are immediately connected to them. So if you are, how many of you are using the Think 2018 hashtag for the conference this week? Okay, everybody else, the hashtag is Think 2018. When people share content that's tagged that, anybody who's watching the conference is going to see it. So make sure that as you would create content for this event, you would tag it Think 2018 and be at least noticed by the folks who are participating in the event. Second, monitor things that are of importance to what your expertise is on social media. And this is as simple as just setting up some Google alerts or some things like that. It doesn't have to be complex. But then when you see someone asking a question, engage, answer their questions. Again, they don't have to ask you specifically, they just have to ask a question, you answer the question, and you start to gain attention. Third, as you create stuff, the stuff that does well, the stuff that people actually like and comment and share, those are things you want to recycle. So every 2 or 3 months, put your best stuff on a treadmill. If you have a perspective on, for example, data federation, and people keep wanting to see more about that, turn it into a series, turn it into a series of videos, and then obviously turn it into a book, turn it into a white paper. The more that you can take a piece of content that's successful and expand on it and refresh it every 3 months, the more likely it is you're going to get that audience activation. And finally, be prepared if you want to grow, say, above the 10 or 15,000 audience member mark, to be prepared to spend a little bit of money on it. And by a little bit, I mean maybe about $5 a day. But how many of you have your own personal website? Okay, that's homework. Go make your own personal website, because you need a place to be able to collect data on all of the people that you're engaging with. How many of you have ever gone shopping online on like Amazon or something and seen ads for what you're browsing like for the next 2 days, right? That's called retargeting. You can do that on your personal website. You want to do that on your personal website. When you publish a video, when you publish any piece of content, you want retargeting tags, and you want that people staying in that audience. You don't have to spend money every single day, but you want to track the living daylights out of those people, because guess what? When you go to change jobs, or when you have a major piece of content coming up, drop 15 or 25 bucks in the retargeting machine and turn it on and make people pay attention for a brief amount of time as your big thing or your big announcement comes out. Having that audience is never retroactive, so you need to have the retargeting on to begin with. Facebook offers it. Twitter offers it. There are advertising platforms that offer it, and it's as simple as putting some tags on your website, and then you go and annoy the living daylights out of people for as long as you're willing to spend money to do so. In terms of who to tag and who to participate with, you're at an IBM event. If you are not engaging with the individual handles for each of the IBM products that you work with, please do. So that means if you're in cloud, it should be IBM Cloud. If you're in Watson, it's IBM Watson, and so forth. Partner with and get the attention of as many of the divisions of IBM that you have relationships with, and do that so that you have those relationships after Think ends. Don't leave here saying, okay, I got a cool shirt. All right? You get a shirt for asking questions, but don't just take home the shirt. Like, take home relationships from this show. If you are paying attention and monitoring Twitter, here, Melissa. If you're paying attention to these different breakout sessions and session leaders, get to know those folks, share their content, because they will help you amplify things. You're here on the floor, take a look at any of the show floors for other vendors. If there's a vendor in your space, particularly a big one, you want to get their attention at the show, talk to them, build a relationship, share some of their stuff, so that when you go on, again, to try and activate your stuff later on, you have their attention. There are a number of folks who are in it's called the Social VIP program. If you go on to any of the social networks and look for Think 2018, talk to those folks, especially if it's in a subject area that you know well, like Z-Series, for example. That's the kind of those relationships you want to build, because when you want to publish something, those people can help amplify you if you've built a relationship at the show. Buy them a drink, buy them a lot of drinks, and you might be able to build a really good relationship. And then, especially for specific technologies, look for people wearing the blue lanyards throughout the event. These are folks who are IBM champions, which means that they are subject matter experts within the IBM audience. They're not IBMers, who know a product or service really, really, really well. These are folks you might want to collaborate with. These are folks who also have really good relationships in the user community, and certainly with some of the biggest brands in the space. So make sure that you know who they are, and you talk to them and get to know them better. Finally, in terms of how long does it take to build your personal brand, you have to be consistently publishing, and you have to be very, very patient. Consistently publishing means at least once a week, ideally once a day. So, for example, when I get up in the morning, I will typically record a video and publish that as my blog post for the day, and change all the formats and things. It's about an hour in the mornings. I've been doing this since about 2007, and it's to the point now where I have about 100,000 followers or so, which is a reasonable amount. I'm still not a Kardashian. Nobody sends me on Etihad Airlines first class, but it's enough that when I launched my new company, Brain Trust Insights, I got enough people to pay attention to it to at least get some initial interest in it. So plan for your brand to take 2 to 4 years to build of consistent work, of tagging people, of publishing on a regular, frequent basis. And if you do that, like I said, that's your lifeboat. That's your insurance policy that helps protect you against a down market, against a downsizing, against a major industry change. By having your personal brand, the only person who can wreck your personal brand is you, unless you're a politician. So, with that, any questions? You, sir, and then you, ma'am.
Just a question maybe on scripting. So I tried to do some stuff on video, but kind of found myself going over and over and over. So how do you get the script right and kind of also getting it rehearsed in front of the camera? Is there any tips on that?
I don't rehearse a whole bunch. What I like to do is I use mind mapping software to plot out the major points. So that gives me a skeleton so that I don't constantly repeat myself. But beyond that, I try not to script, because what happens is it comes out very robotic and not a whole lot of fun. So on the Mac, I use an app called MindNode. There's a gajillion and a half different mind mapping packages. This is an example of one I just did. So I was talking this morning about the hierarchy of analytics and how each layer has a technology associated with it. So I made some notes, and as I went through, I just sort of had them on the side to talk about them, but I didn't go into super detail in the script. This is the script. It's enough just for me to not lose my place and ramble for 20 minutes, kind of like what I'm doing now. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, was you?
How do you handle feedback on your social media, especially if it's counter to your...
So trolls and critics and stuff like that? If it's legitimate criticism, hey, you are completely wrong about data virtualization, right? That's not how it works. I will say, cool, thank you. I'd love to get to know you because you have something to teach me and I'm willing to be taught. I'm very happy to learn something. If it's just an asshole, then just block them, right? Because if it's somebody like, oh, well, you look fat. Well, thanks. I will take that into consideration, blocked, right? Because it depends on whether they have a legitimate interest in helping me become a better practitioner, or whether they're just being a jerk. There's plenty of jerks on the internet, so just block them like crazy. It's like whack-a-mole. Sir?
So where does the line be drawn between kind of your corporate persona and your own persona? Meaning if I'm employed by IBM and I'm supposed to be an expert in data security, right? How much of that can I take to my personal side?
So the question is on boundaries. It's a really good question. The boundaries are wherever you decide you feel comfortable with them. So for example, if you look on social media, I have a crap ton of stuff out there on, interests of mine, the martial art that I practice, what foods I cook, how well I shoot a recurve bow, right? Things that are personal and professional, but you'll find nothing about my family. Zero. There's no photos, there's no anything, because that's my boundary is keeping the trolls away from the people I actually care about. In terms of messaging, it depends on the company you work for. So IBM, for example, is known as being a relatively conservative company. So you obviously there's the social computing guidelines. The companies probably have hey, here's what you are and are not allowed to say or do. Don't go outside of these rails. So you probably should not show yourself pounding shots at a bar at 2 a.m. on a work night. Probably. I mean, you could if that's legitimately who you are.
What about from a legal perspective? Meaning let's say I create some content and I have a personal, and then I get downsized or decide to leave somewhere else. Can they come back and say, hey, you created this essentially on company time?
Right. So the question of right? What you create on company time is dependent on your employment agreement with the company. If the company says anything you create during company time is the company's, like it's all work for hire, then you have to adhere to that. You have to adhere with whatever's your contract. Now, the ideal is that you build your personal brand enough that in the next job you jump to, you have your attorney talk to the, help you draft the employment agreement to say, hey, things that I create at the request of the company on company time and company equipment is the company's, but stuff I do on my own outside of company time is mine. Right now, depending on the company, some companies are very draconian, say anything you do while you're employed is ours, right? So it's a negotiation point for your next position. But for right now, you have to adhere to with whatever you're currently under with, which I have no idea what IBM's is. Other questions? Sir?
This is a Watson personality insight, right? Do you think we can use that?
So, Watson personality insights?
Yeah.
For yourself?
I mean, is that any way we can use, like, it supports various things, right?
Yeah.
Content.
Yeah, so you can use Watson personality insights. I think there's two really good use cases for that. One, take all of your text content, feed it into personality insights to get a sense of sort of what your own voice is. For those of you who have not tried Watson personality insights, it's an enormously fun tool. You load text content into it, and it kind of does a little bit of psychoanalysis on you. It is not a medical professional. And that gives you a sort of a blueprint of your voice. Are you introverted, extroverted, technical, confident, tentative, and things like that in that sort of starfish-shaped thing? The second thing is you can use it to score different publications. So when you get to a point where somebody says, hey, would you write a guest blog post for the Think blog? Or would you write a guest blog post for Tech Republic or whatever? You can take a sampling of articles from that, blueprint it, and get a sense like, yeah, how close does my personality match the publication? And if there's a ton of overlap, then you can write in your normal style and however you choose to speak. If there's a significant mismatch, you may say, you know what? We can try it, but I don't necessarily know how good a fit I will be as a writer in terms of voice and tone with your publication. Like, for example, I probably would not go write for Vice News, right? Because they have a very different tone. I probably would not go write for the Pornhub blog because it's a very different tone. Their data science team is fantastic, but still not something that I feel comfortable with because it's not my personality and stuff. So use personality insights to sort of fingerprint the different entities. Also, when you're talking to the different influencers, use personality insights to figure out who is that influencer, what's their tone, and then is that somebody I would feel comfortable talking to if they are like aggressive and brash and all sorts of way out there, and that's not you. Maybe that's not the influencer to talk to. Maybe there's a different IBM champion or an influencer who would be a better personality fit for you. Yep. Other questions? Comments? Dad jokes? All right, the video for this is going to be posted up on my website whenever I get back to my hotel room tonight and edit it and stuff. So if you want it, if you would like a copy of the video, just take a picture of the screen and email me, and I will be more than happy to send along to you. Thank you very much for your attention.